Jaden Bordos with another video. And today we are gonna be doing a reaction to another brand new Food Theory video. Food Theory, Girl Scout cookies actually suck. Let's see and find out what this will be about. Also, I had Girl Scout cookies plenty of times before, and they didn't honestly really suck. But I guess it depends on the type of cookies or type of Girl Scout cookies. But yeah, I mean, I wouldn't say they suck, but I mean, to some people probably no good. So without further ado, make sure to like, comment, subscribe. Tell us what you would like us to react to next. Also, hit the bell icon so you get notified whenever we upload posts and go live on Jaden Bordos. And without further ado, 3, 2, 1, let's see and find out what this will be about. Let's go.
Girl Scout cookies. Delicious confections that support upstanding young women, or a deadly poison sold through weaponized politeness and eye contact. Call me callous, but I can't be the only one who senses something sinister behind the sugary juggernaut that is the corporate Girl Scout cookie machine, right? Every year, they set up their unavoidable guilt trips where they force little girls to hawk addictive mints of thin. Or worse, they come directly to your door to lure you into a costly cookie coma. But I've read the news. I know these teeny tiny charlatans are toxic treats. And I'm gonna do it. I'm gonna prove that Girl Scout cookies are secretly evil. And there's nothing you can do to stop me.
You could have just said no thank you.
Tag me
That's true.
into a box of those tagalongs.
Butthead.
Hello, Internet. And there's nothing you can do to stop me.
You could have just said no thank you.
Tag me into a box of those tagalongs.
Butthead.
I guess he wanted to be fucking rude about it.
Hello, Internet. Welcome to Food Theory, where uncovering corporate corruption is just how the cookie crumble. Wow, how are these so good? I mean, how are these cookies so...
Secretly likes them. Wow.
evil? Like, seriously, did you know that everyone's favorite indulgence is gonna kill us all? That's what a handful of lawsuits are claiming. Oh, good. I mean, how are these cookies so evil? Like, seriously, did you know that everyone's favorite indulgence is gonna kill us all? That's what a handful of lawsuits are claiming, at least. Supposedly, lab testing revealed that several flavors of Girl Scout cookies contain dangerous chemicals. This news is actually what put Girl Scout cookies on my radar for today's video. I've always been skeptical of the Scouts, because from my outsider's perspective, I've never really loved that they feel more like a cookie empire than a legitimate extracurricular. But with headlines like these, I can finally have the chance to prove my suspicions correct and tell the world I told you so. But obviously, in order to do so, I'm gonna need to set aside my bias and look at the hard science.
That's true.
Or I might get a cease and desist from the world's cutest lawyers. Get ready to earn your Business Buster merit badge because... Oh, hold on, let me get that.
Do you want to buy some cookies?
No! Wait, are those M&Ms? Don't judge. This is for science. Now, where was I? See, before there were the cookies, there were the Girl Scouts. And before there were the Girl Scouts...
Hey, even if you did get a cease and desist, honestly, do we honestly give a fuck if we get a cease and desist, as long as the people are female and adorable, and we immediately fall in love with them, and we take them in as our girlfriends willingly, and make love with them?
They were Boy Scouts, but just by like a month or so. It goes without saying that children in the early 1900s had vastly different interests than the kids today have. Back then,
That's true. Yeah. Like,
It was super popular for kids to take an interest in military or frontier scouting. You know, in the dark days before they could see my face in theory videos. Youngsters read fictional books about scouts training for the military. They wanted to dress in scouts uniforms, and adults began setting up real-life scouting activities to nurture their curiosity. Unfortunately, there wasn't an actual scouting guide specifically for kids yet. Most of the diehards read books, but these were geared towards grown-ups. It wasn't until a decorated British officer, Robert Baden-Powell, became so inspired by the youth that he set out to create a new scouting guide for younger age demographics. In 1909, Baden-Powell held the first Scouting for Boys rally in the UK, with over 11,000 uniformed boy and girl scouts in attendance. From there, local chapters and organizations were formed, and Baden-Powell officially formed the Boy Scouts Association in 1910. During their first census, over 100,000 scouts were counted. This was such a massive hit that Baden-Powell's sister, Agnes, formed the spin-off branch for young ladies later in the same year. After meeting Baden-Powell in 1912, a widow from the U.S. named Juliet Gordon Lau, aka Daisy, decided to start the Girl Scouts of America in Savannah, Georgia. Her first troop
well, okay then.
of Girl Scouts focused on skills seen at the time as more feminine. Remember, very different times, alright? Women still didn't have the right to vote and were expected to solely aspire to the roles of wife and mother. Daisy's
AKA discrimination times.
thought to develop a program where young women could learn basic housewife skills, but also provide a space for activities that were traditionally seen as more masculine. So, things like sewing, cooking, and nursing were focused on, but the GSA also taught them outdoor skills like hiking and camping, and how to play America's hottest new sport, basketball. Despite strict limitations for women's achievements, Daisy hoped that the Girl Scouts would inspire independence, as well as provide a space for young girls to grow, create, and explore together. But just because I'm sick of Girl Scout cookies doesn't mean I want to be sick in general, which is why we're back partnering with our sponsor for today's video, ZocDoc. If you're like me, you dread finding a doctor online. Last year, I had a pretty bad herniated disc, and I had to go see an orthopedic surgeon, but I had just moved to Miami and I had no idea where to go. ZocDoc helped me find a doctor near me that had great reviews, so I knew I was in good hands before I even stepped into their office. If you're new to ZocDoc, they're a free website that makes it easy to book in-network appointments with more than 150,000 providers across all 50 states. You can search through the over 200 specialties offered on ZocDoc and see which doctors take your insurance. And read reviews from real patients before deciding who feels like the right fit for you. You can also book in-person or video visits, see real-time availability, and schedule instantly with no phone calls required. With ZocDoc, I got my appointment in just 24 hours. But sometimes you can even score same-day appointments too. The best thing for me is being able to see what other verified users have to say, so I don't have to trust sketchy 5-star reviews on some random site. Real people, real reviews, it's real easy. So if you're feeling stressed about
That's true.
your health, or maybe you accidentally ate one too many Girl Scout cookies, head to ZocDoc.com/thefoodtheorist or click the link in the description to find a top-rated doctor today. Thank you so much to ZocDoc for sponsoring us. Now let's see how this Girl Scout cookie crumbles.
Walmart Plus Assist offers
I always been a Scout. I always been a Girl Scout at Out No Good.
50% off a membership if you qualify for SNAP, Medicaid, or more. And you get benefits like free delivery.
In the
I basically am a pilot one.
early days, Girl Scout troops often focused on canning preserved goods to help out with food shortages. But starting in 1917, the Mistletoe Troop in Muskogee. I was way off. Muskogee, Oklahoma became the first Girl Scout troop to sell homemade cookies in order to raise funds for the program. The Mistletoe girls sold their first batch of cookies in the cafeteria of their high school, kicking off a long-standing tradition of trading baked goods for cold, hard cash. When the GSA cookie program went national in 1921, Chicago's council director, Florence E. Neal, published a recipe for simple, cost-effective sugar cookies in the American Girl magazine. She mathed out that 26 cents worth of ingredients yielded about 7 dozen cookies, which could then be packaged and sold for 30 cents per dozen. That's roughly an 88% profit margin, something that the sharks from Shark Tank would salivate over. In the
Yeah, most likely.
30s, Girl Scouts began actually advertising their cookies, developing their marketing skills to reach more hungry mouths and waiting wallets. In 1934, the Greater Philadelphia Council took cookie sales to the next level, becoming the first council to sell commercially baked cookies. The New York Girl Scouts raised the bar again in 1935 by designing special boxes for their commercially baked cookies, with the words Girl Scout cookies on the front. By 1936, the National Girl Scout Organization began the process of licensing its first official commercial baker, Keebler, to produce cookies that would be sold nationwide. Today, the number of commercial bakers responsible for producing Girl Scout cookies has standardized from 29 to just 2, ABC Bakers and Little Brownie Bakers. These two bakers are also why your favorite flavors may have different names sometimes. For example, ABC Bakers call their gooey delectable bites Caramel Delights, but Little Brownie Bakers call them Samoas. This is true for a majority of their cookies. But this basically brings us to now. Really? Again? What? Don't look at me like that. This brings us to now, where the Girl Scout cookies bring in a whopping $800 million in revenue every year, which helps fund the councils, the troops, and the larger company. At first glance, this is where I thought I would find some shady business, considering the revenue from the cookies has only increased over the years, while the number of Girl Scouts has decreased. But this wasn't it, unfortunately. See, the Girl Scouts aren't pocketing cookie money in some shadowy back room, but the cookie program has quietly evolved from a youth fundraiser into a massive licensed food operation, one where rising
Well, that's kinda true.
prices, corporate manufacturing, and shrinking membership can all coexist without anyone technically doing anything wrong. By the time they pay their manufacturers and use the leftover money to pay salaries, rents, insurances, and more, all of which have only gotten higher over time, there's surprisingly little left for the fun stuff. That's why the troops aren't doing their field trips on jetpacks or taking private planes to get there. Troops typically only earn between 75 cents and $1.30 per box. So yeah, may fund the necessities and a little extra bit here and there, but they're not mini Al Capone's, dagnabbit. But there is one recent controversy that may prove their evil after all. Because if you haven't heard, the Girl Scout cookies came under fire with some studies showing they had high levels of heavy metals. All of these claims mostly stem from a 2024 study by GMO Science. The study tested 25 samples of cookies purchased in California, Iowa, and Louisiana, and found that the cookies contained various levels of the herbicide glyphosate and 5 heavy metals: aluminum, arsenic, cadmium, lead, and mercury. 100% of the samples tested positive for glyphosate and at least one heavy metal. More concerningly, 88% of the samples tested positive for all 5 of the metals. I don't know about you, but I prefer my heavy metals in my playlist and not in my food. Of the cookies
I mean, yeah, that's true. Keep the heavy metals in playlists and not food, people.
tested, the peanut butter patties had the highest levels of cadmium, lead, and aluminum. Caramel Delights had the highest levels of mercury, and the gluten-free Toffee Tastics had the highest levels of arsenic. According to the study, the amount of metal found in the samples exceeded the safety limits set by the Environmental Protection Agency. Understandably, claims like these caught a bunch of news coverage, from local stations to The Guardian to Joe Rogan, which in turn turned it into several consumer lawsuits, which is how I heard of the story. Now, obviously, the Girl Scouts of the USA had to respond in vague legalese claims, insisting that their products are consumer safe. Wait, actually, this looks pretty straightforward. They're firmly implying that GMO Science's study is bunk science. Say it ain't so. Joe Rogan wouldn't misinform America, would he? As much as my ego wants to believe that the Girl Scouts are secretly evil and peddling dubious delights, upon closer inspection, the girls are out for merit badges. Scientific
Yeah.
merit, that is. If you remember a while back, I had to begrudgingly defend Logan Paul's Prime from bogus lawsuits claiming that his sports drinks were full of carcinogenic plastics. And the more I look into this, the more these cookie lawsuits feel like deja vu. There's a saying when it comes to toxicology: the dosage makes the poison. While certain chemicals and substances are dangerous to humans, they're only a real threat when the body has to deal with more than it can naturally filter out or ignore. In the case of those Prime allegations, that meant consumers would have to drink around 1,667 bottles of Prime in order to consume enough microplastics to increase their cancer rate by 0.01%. Looking at the numbers for these Girl Scout cookies, we're talking about comparable consumption to pose a threat. Yeah, glyphosate and heavy metals can be dangerous if consumed in large quantities, but according to third-party experts, the dosages discovered in the study are so minuscule that it would take thousands of cookies a day over a significant period of time to pose any real danger to a 70-pound child. In the case of glyphosate, it would take 73,000 cookies daily to reach levels that would require medical intervention. Once again, that's for someone the size of a child. Call me crazy, but if a kid is scarfing down that many Thin Mints, they are 1, Richie rich, because that's like 13 stacks of snacks a day, and 2, they're gonna have more concerning health problems to deal with from the sugar alone.
Yeah.
For context, the chemicals measured in this study are on a scale of ppb, or parts per billion. This means that in a liter of water, there's 1 microgram worth of contaminant. If we were measuring time in parts per billion, 1 ppb would be 1 second out of 32 years. In reality, the minuscule degree of chemicals found in these samples falls within the FDA's food safety limits, and they're similar to dosages found in all sorts of foods we consume, even healthy ones like vegetables. This is because the chemicals tested are common in the soil used to grow the ingredients that make up these cookies. So while the thought of ingesting heavy metals through Girl Scout cookies might drum up panic, you're already consuming similar dosages in your diet. Sans cookies. Take aluminum, which is the 3rd most abundant element in the Earth's crust. It's literally impossible to avoid consuming aluminum. It's in our breast milk, baby formulas, and is found naturally in grain-based foods. When it comes
Yeah, that makes sense.
to the Girl Scout cookies, the levels of aluminum found by GMO science are within the scope of other grain products like wheat bread. When it comes to the scarier metals like mercury, the samples still don't indicate cause for concern. The most potent mercury sample was a Caramel Delight that tested for 21.9 parts per billion, which is far below the FDA's action level of 1,000 parts per billion. And of the samples, the most concerning one was for a peanut butter patty that tested for 23.3 parts per billion of lead. While this is below the FDA's food action level of 100 parts per billion, it does translate to roughly 4 to 5 cookies a day over an extended period of time, leading to concern. And that does seem tangibly realistic, but critics have noted that the lead levels found across the study vary significantly, and other samples indicate levels that would take nearly 200 cookies daily to reach the same level of concern. Also, keep in mind, this study is incredibly small. In total, 25 cookies were tested, and only 3 of them were peanut butter patties. There's just not enough data to know for certain if the lead contents in the cookies in question are common. This brings us to the real contamination red flag that the study raises. It's not the contamination of the cookies, but of the science itself. According to my research, every scientist who has weighed in on this study's legitimacy has brought up concerns that the methodology is flawed, which maybe makes sense since it was published by advocacy groups like GMO Science and Moms Across America, and not by a reputable scientific journal. Not only is the sample size incredibly small, but the study wasn't exactly peer-reviewed. It doesn't take much digging to find that the study itself was funded by Moms Across America, an advocacy group with a long history of being anti-GMO, anti-vaccine, and a reputation for being anti-science and commissioning, cherry-picking, and misrepresenting studies to align with their political agenda. The accusations their study brought against the Girl Scouts also seem to repeat a pattern they're known for. This isn't the first time they've published studies using small sample sizes on non-peer-reviewed blogs. Notably, in 2019, they published a similar study on Impossible Burger, claiming that they detected dangerous levels of glyphosate in Impossible patties. Impossible patties clap back hard, smugly correcting errors in MAA's math that inflated the glyphosate safety threshold by 1,000,000%. That's madness. Suddenly, it's starting to make sense why the Girl Scouts were so confident in their defense and why the FDA has yet to order an official recall on their cookies, despite this study being published 2 years ago. It was basically a smear campaign by an independent group with an agenda looking to take down the Scouts. So, darn it, the Girl Scouts aren't evil and their cookies aren't gonna doom us all. But you know what that means? I can eat as many boxes of Thin Mints as I desire without fear of death.
That's true.
But, hey, that's just a theory. Food theory. Buen provecho. And hey, did you know that there's a holiday that should replace Thanksgiving? Make sure to click the link on the screen now. And as always, I'll see you next week.
Okay. So, this will be the end of the reaction. If you like the reaction, make sure to like, comment, subscribe. Tell us what you want us to try next. And what do you think about Girl Scout cookies? Comment down below. Let us know in the comments down below as well. Without further detail and bold, I'll see you next time. We are out.